Is this working? Can you can hear me? Okay.
Well, are we all set? Okay, I'll call this meeting of the school committee for the city of Lewiston, Maine to order for Monday, July the 11th, 2022. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll start with school committee member introductions. We'll start with at large.
Megan Parks at large.
Karen Paquette, Assistant Superintendent.
Jake Langley, Superintendent.
Bruce Damon, Ward 1.
Elizabeth Ames, Ward 3.
Tanya Whitlow, Ward 4.
Ashley Medina, Ward 5.
Megan Hurd, Ward 6.
Paul Bopelant, Ward 7.
Melinda Scott, City Council Representative.
Thank you. Karen has something she can do here.
Just testing the audio.
Yes. Janet? We have a couple of housekeeping items I'd like to bring up to start with. We are, item number 10 tonight is to take a field trip to look at a potential office space at 75 Park Street. What I would propose is moving item number 10 to between 18 and 19 on the back page. That would be right after future agenda items and prior to an executive session. So we would go do the field trip, come back and enter into executive session. So it seems that would be the most efficient way of doing it. So see anyone who has an issue with that? Okay, we will then move 10 to between 18 and 19. It might be. It stays dark. It stays late, late. So we'll see. We'll hope. We'll try to keep it. We'll all be together anyway, so nobody will be walking alone. So item number 3 is to receive and potentially vote on the nomination for principal for Lewiston High School. Mr. Superintendent.
So through a lot of work, and I want to thank a number of members of the committee who were on 2 separate interview committees that participated in this process. And tonight we're presenting a nomination for Mr. John Radke for principal at Lewiston High School. And I'd like to share a little bit about him if I could. Before we go too far, John's cover letter starts off with a story of wearing a Paths sweatshirt, which is the Portland Area Technical Center, as an assistant principal at Falmouth High School. And he's wearing it around some kids that cited it as meaning a lot to them. And he wore that because he knew the kids were passionate about that experience. And he wanted to honor and recognize the work they had done. And he talks in his cover letter about the things that are most important to the individual and to the students, to the staff, and finding ways to identify how much that matters and recognizing that the things that they value as important is also a good way to build a lot of trust by getting to know your peers, your colleagues, your students and families. He also mentions that holds true for colleagues. He said, listen to them, understand their passions, understand their challenges professionally, and to the extent they are willing to share personally. Who is a pilot, a knitter, a sailor, who plays music, bikes, likes to run marathons, who's passionate about Austin, Kurosawa, Beethoven, who goes home on an ailing child or parent or spouse. Excuse me, who goes home to an ailing child, parent or spouse. Know their burdens, their gifts, their passions, and invite them to share those passions and gifts with the students and their colleagues. Yeah, that we live in an age of alienation, of disconnection, of isolation, and schools cannot be the place where those feelings are reinforced or amplified. If nothing else, COVID has taught us to value the human connection in teaching and learning. We need to strengthen that connection going forward. He shares numerous other things in his cover letter, but really talks about building trust and really staying focused on the people portion of the work and relationships and how that can make anything possible. John's a graduate from Harvard University, Colby College, and also Edinburgh University. And he's got a proven track record of designing lasting student-centered change in schools. He's numerous examples, and maybe he'll share some when he comes up, about instructional innovation, including things from long distance Habitat for Humanity, overseas experiences, technology. Was also a school committee member in Portland for Portland Public Schools, served numerous terms there. Did things like secure grant funding for Casco Bay High School as a participant in that process. Numerous other components. Administratively, many years of experience in Falmouth. He was a teacher there and then became an assistant principal. Prior to that, he worked in Gorham as a teacher and overseas teaching also. Also experience with coaching, management, numerous boards, co-founder of different components, has some entrepreneurial business ventures that I believe he still remains a part of. And it just really, the list goes on, but I think what John brought to the conversation was, I think, a key for us, a real focus on relationships at all levels and what that can bring to the world today, given all that we've been through in the pandemic and in school and education as a whole. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce John Reck.
I'm very excited to be here.
John, there's a button on the mic that will make it light up red. There it is. You got
That's the one. Thank you. I'll try that again so the folks at home. I'm very excited. To be coming up here to Lewiston. I think there's lots of exciting things that are happening in and around the town, and certainly in the schools. And as Jake said, one of the things that's a real passion of mine is making sure that you know who you're working with, both the adults and the students in the building, and making sure that you are providing for them what they need to be successful, either to do their job or to make their way through high school and on to whatever's next in the world for them. So that's something I've been doing where I've been doing, my whole career, and I'm excited to bring that to Lewiston and have an opportunity to really, pick up on the strengths that are here and sort of, have it continue to grow into the greatness that it deserves. So that's my elevator pitch. Jake didn't tell me I was going to have to speak, so but I am very excited by this opportunity. I think it's going to be a fun and exciting and busy time. So looking forward to it.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve Mr. Radke as the new principal to high school. Mr. Beauparlant.
I'll second.
So it's moved by Mr. Beauplan, second by Ms. Parks. Is there any discussion or questions for Mr. Radke? Ms. Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First off, I want to welcome you. And I want to just put out there that change is tough sometimes. And there's been a lot of change that's happened in our school system over the last few years, a lot, and what some would perceive as to be scary. But I will say that the one thing, being part of the interview committee, that really struck me was that when asked where you see yourself in 5 years, your response was Lewiston High School. And I think that that's what that school needs more than anything right now is stability, strong leadership, and leadership that is open to those conversations. And I look forward to you being the new principal, and I thank you for coming to Lewiston.
Anyone else? Seeing nothing, I take a vote. All in favor? That is 8-0. Mr. Radke, thank you and welcome to Lewiston Public Schools.
Congratulations.
The next item on the agenda is to receive and potentially vote on the nomination for principal position at Farwell.
Hi again, everyone. I'm happy to share the nomination for Andrew Bard as the potential next principal upon vote at Farwell Elementary School. Mr. Bard has been a principal for 5 years now over at the Washburn School in Auburn. He's had a high success rate with retaining staff, which I think is a very important thing to us. Firm believer in being a lifelong learner and close to done the doctorate. So that's a major accomplishment that he's also been able to balance that with the workload, which he's been successful with. He's a Lewiston guy and was for many years prior to him working a bit across the way. But Andrew, you were at 6 or 7 years at Farwell as a teacher prior to some other leadership opportunities. Great background. The nice thing about Andrew is, while he wasn't necessarily an internal candidate, we know him and we've known him for many years. His leadership strengths, again, relationship focused, and have a lot of belief and faith that he'll certainly get the job done, and we look forward to his leadership. Karen, do you want to add to that at all?
I'm really excited to have Andrew back in Lewiston. And I think I said to him in one of our conversations, it's like full circle. And I think he said in his interview, it's like him coming home, which is exciting. And I'm just really excited for him to be part of our team again. And I'll look forward to working with him.
It's a short speech or trivia tonight.
Well, I just want to thank everyone for this opportunity for this position, and I look forward to jumping in tomorrow, feet first, and working with the team and the school community and parents, and how I can, help push our school forward. Like Superintendent Langley said, keep our staff and move us forward. So thank you.
Yeah, I think it's been, Andrew, probably 20 years since we were doing marching band together. So it's great to have you coming back and working with us. So I would look for a motion to approve. Mrs. Scott?
Motion to receive and approve Mr. Bard as the new principal at Farwell.
Second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Whitlow. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That's unanimous. Welcome, Andrew. The next item on the agenda is potentially to receive and potentially vote on nomination for assistant principal position at Lewiston Middle School.
So I'm going to ask Ms. Winslow to come up, who is principal at the middle school, who was very engaged in the process. And
I have a story. Well, first of all, I almost brought my Farwell key and just handed it over to Andrew, but I did pass it in this morning, so we're all legit there. So I did. So I have a quick story to tell you. 5 years ago, my son was a sophomore playing varsity football for Edward Little High School, and he came home from his first double session and said, "Mom, I need a gallon jug of water." And I said, "Well, we have a lot of water bottles, like 427 of them in the kitchen. You can take a water bottle or 2 or 3. "Nope, I need a gallon jug." I said, "Okay." He said, "Coach Matumbo says that we need to drink a gallon at practice because that will force us to have the most accountability for ourselves. And it's what we need to contribute to our team." And he said, "For every kid that doesn't bring their gallon of water, we have to run a lap." Okay, as a team, the whole team has to run together. So he comes home I, of course, go get him his water jug, just like we all do, right? The night before the science posters do, you run out and get what they need. So he comes home the second day and I said, "How many kids had to run?" And he said 6. He said, "We had to run 6 laps for the 6 kids who didn't bring it." The next day, 4. The next day, none. I said, "That's great." So then a week later, he leaves his jug at home. And I'm going, "Oh man, this kid really wants to make varsity. He left his jug here. This isn't looking good." So he comes home and I said, you left a jug at the house. Everyone had to run, huh? And he says, "No." I said, "Oh, you're not doing it anymore." He said, "No, we are." He says, "The captains figured out that they just keep jugs in their car. And so whoever doesn't have a jug, they give us a jug before practice." So you might think that the kids were squirming out on that, but that wasn't the lesson. The lesson was you're accountable for yourself, but you're also accountable for others. And we're a team. And as a captain, as the leader of this team, we need to help each other. We need to support each other and lift each other up. So when I saw Mr. Matumbo's, does this sound familiar? Yeah. When I saw Mr. Matumbo's application come through for assistant principal at the middle school, I thought, I don't know many Matumbos. And so I really want to talk to this guy. And so he went through several interviews, met with several different people at the middle school. And he overwhelmingly was just so passionate about what he brings to education. And he exuded accountability and teamwork. And I am so thrilled to have our diverse educational experiences come together at the middle school, because I really believe that what we can offer our kids needs to be diverse within our leadership. And so I really think we have the components to help and support all of our kiddos. So I am really excited to nominate and hopefully have you accept Mr. Alunga Matumbo as assistant principal at Lewiston Middle School. Here's your water. Come on up. You can.
Wow. I don't even know where to start, but I am so humbled to have this opportunity to be standing in front of everybody here. 3 hard years of going back to grad school. My story started at Auburn Middle School. They had an opening position and I put in, I just graduated with a master's in counseling. They told me I didn't have the qualification. That's the motivation I needed. I went back to school while coaching, while working as a counselor, got my second master's degree, proved to my young kids, my students, that you can do anything that you put your mind to. And when one door closes, another door opens up. So when we talk about accountability, I hold myself accountable, and whatever team I'm on, I make sure that team knows that I'm there, ready to work. So that's what I bring to this position. Having an opportunity to stand in front of everybody here, I'm so passionate and just ready to go. Whatever I can give, I'm ready to give that to my heart, my soul, my body, everything that it takes to make sure that my job makes everybody here feel like we're moving forward as an education system. That's my say.
Thank you. Thank you. I would look for motion. Ms. Parks?
I move that we accept the nomination for Mr. Matumbo as the LMS principal.
I'll second that motion.
Assistant
Principal. Sorry, Amanda, you're out.
That's what happens when you turn in the keys. So we have a motion by Ms. Parks and we have a second by Ms. Hurd. Is there any discussion? Mr. Beaupont.
I often bring my experience of being a 43-year teacher on the other side of the river. And although I have retired, I know Mr. Matumbo has a very excellent reputation there and is well respected and has done a heck of a job. So it's a gift that we have him.
Thank you, Paul. Anything further? If not, all in favor? Mr. Matumbo, welcome. And Ms. Winslow, you just make sure you've got your keys, right? That's right. Yes. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, which consists of transactions, minutes, and personnel. Is there anyone who would like to set aside any agenda, any consent agenda item? Seeing none, the consent agenda is adopted. The next item on the agenda is public input. Members of the public may address the school committee for up to 3 minutes on non-agenda items at this time and on agenda items later. Comments that pertain to staff, personal matters, or student issues should be directed to the superintendent or the appropriate staff member of Lewiston Public Schools. Public comments shall be directed to the school committee, be brief, not repetitive, and related to the matter at hand. Please start by stating your name, address, and affiliation with the Lewiston Public Schools. Is there anyone who would like to address the school committee in public session? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. We'll move on to agenda item number 8, to receive a presentation on the annual ESEA federal programs. And Jenny's here. So, thank you, Jenny.
I hear it's on.
That's
but-
coming up.
Okay. Beautiful, beautiful.
And then we'll hit. Oh, yeah. Goals for today. You're right on.
Beautiful. Ooh.
Cool.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me here tonight. Every July, a requirement for Lewiston Public Schools is to share out information on our federal programs, our upcoming FY23, our upcoming school year federal application, and also just to discuss our process and procedures around comprehensive needs assessments. So I am here today to do that and walk through some of that information with you. So for a bit of context, I just wanted to be able to show a little bit of the landscape of federal grants that are currently in Lewiston that we're working with. We have many federal grants. Sorry. Oh, there we go. We have 119 grants in total, so that includes non-federal and federal combined. But the ones you see on this chart are our current federal ones. We have many COVID relief grants that are federal we're working with right now. We always have our ESEA grants. We always have our special education grants. And then we have others that are very typical to see in Lewiston every year, but sometimes they're either here or they're not, or go on a different 2 or 3 year kind of cycle. But the ESCA grants are the ones we're going to look at today. And for Lewiston, that means Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV. So what is ESCA? ESCA stands for Elementary and Secondary Education Act, and it is a statute, it is law for serving students, providing our federal government, providing financial aid to support the work in schools. And again, it's if you've heard of the No Child Left Behind, it's the newer enactment of that same law. And again, we apply for and receive Title I, II, III, and IV through ESCA. So FY23, federal funds for ESCA in Lewiston, allocation amounts are here. So we receive over $3 million this upcoming school year for Title I, $457,000 for Title II, $225,000 for Title III, and $315,000 for Title IV. To give a glance, and I know this is a little bit small, this slide presentation is available on our website right now for anybody who might need to be able to see a little closer there. So a 6-year glance of our title funding is here. Typically, we see an increase every year in all of our titles. It's not the case every single year, but it's very typical that we do continue to increase. The allocation amounts for our district are dependent on our state allocation, which is dependent on our federal allocation. So there are a lot of contributing factors to how much we receive. And this is what it's looked like in the past several years. One very large jump you'll notice from 2017-18 to 18-19 in Title IV. This was a very big year for our Title IV funding source, where we increased by a lot because the formula of how they determined Title IV changed. It changed from being distributed equally among districts in Maine to a per pupil formula, which kind of fits the rest of the funding pieces. So we've seen, and I'll talk about how we're spending Title IV and more about even defining what each title works to do in this presentation. But Title IV is a very exciting funding source for Lewiston right now, meeting needs. We have responsibilities because we choose to apply, receive, and use federal funds that are available to us. We have work that we need to do and are required to do to be an awardee. We must complete comprehensive needs assessments across our district. We have one that is a district level CNA, short for comprehensive needs assessment. And we also have 6 other CNAs, one for each of our schools that are running school-wide programs. All of our CNAs have recently been updated and reviewed because we walk through a process of review for an entire school year. And they are now also posted on our website and available for public to take a look at. And then the CNAs that are home for all of the work that we do there drive our federal application. So when we're looking to apply for the upcoming year and we are describing how we're going to be using our funds and seeking approval for those projects, we are using the CNAs to help develop those plans and make those requests. So it's a bit of a cycle, but one we are comfortable with here in Lewiston. We've been doing this for many years. I'm participating for many years. So sorry, reiterating here what the CNA is, a few important pieces that I hadn't said already is that we have stakeholder teams doing this work. So each of our schools that complete a comprehensive needs assessment assessment over the course of a school year meet regularly, typically monthly or bi-monthly. They meet with a stakeholder team with a representation of staff in their building, community, and hopefully parents at the table as well. And they look to identify areas of strengths, areas for improvement, make goals for their school, and they sit and do that together as a team. The CNA, we begin in August. We really begin that work in August, and it moves through the entire school year so that by the end of it, after a full collection of data, after full analysis work, and conversation around programming, what's working and what's not working and what to do next, we then create our projects again. So part of that big cycle. Which leads us to the federal application. So it's just very important that that we all understand that we do apply for this money. We get allocations, so we know that we have the ability to receive money, but we do apply for it. So basically our funds for each school year begin right around September 1 for the next one. So right now we're very, very busy putting together that application. We will submit it on August 1, and we will be waiting for approval and hoping that that all works out to be situated by September 1. It's very often that as a bit of a liaison between our district and the state, that we go back and forth on some projects, and in a very constructive way, they're seeking clarification, and I'm able to help support that work and move everything along. So our district CNA, all of our CNAs have goals, but I wanted to focus on our district CNA because I will be discussing a lot of the district project elements that we're applying for this upcoming school year. We have our first CNA goal is to improve student academic outcomes. So the district data team, which is our stakeholder team, conducted the work of the CNA this year, and these are the goals that the team decided on. We have a reading goal to increase proficiency using our NWEA. We have a math goal to do the same, to increase our proficiency in math using the NWEA, and our access testing for our English language learners. Our second goal is to continue to build a diverse social and emotional curriculum and introduce pathways and other pieces of that to continue to move forward and support students and staff as we need. We do use a tool called the Panorama, which actually offers us a variety of different surveys, and which we've done a lot of work in this year. We're just a few years into using Panorama, but we were able to set goals we thought were reasonable and feasible for our students. So we are hoping for an increase in positive responses for relationship perception from students, and the same for staff. And climate, I guess the social and emotional well-being surveys to support the healthy learning environment really speaks to the climate of our schools. Goal number 3 is to ensure that we are communicating and informing and participating with our community. We are hoping to take every opportunity to connect with our community, to gather feedback. That's definitely something that's been we've been actively doing and want to even improve, definitely want to improve more on. But the response rate for family perception is one thing we were really zooming in on, that we wanted to make sure and set up as a goal, and really hold us accountable to do the work as well. It's a big piece of the CNA, where I know I'm up here talking about goals, but the work of the CNA through the next coming year would be, did we make it? What's happened? What are we going to do next? Do we need to pivot? All of those things. And then to continue, the second goal here for community is to continue to implement a common communication tool that just simply really, really allows for full participation. So when we talk about how we're using our funds for the upcoming year, every decision is going to be directly aligned to the goals in the district CNA. And so that's a bit why it was important to look at those before we moved on. So I'm just going to get into each funding source a little bit more deeply. But Title I is truly the largest federal funding source for Lewiston to take advantage of in a way, apply for and utilize. We run school-wide programs in our schools, and that's very important to note. It's different than maybe an experience if you've worked in a school or heard of a targeted Title I program where the funds are only allowed to be used with certain students that qualify and certain teachers that teach. The very big difference and very important to Lewiston is that we run school-wide programming at our pre-K through 8 schools. So this allows us to be very flexible in the use of our funds because we can provide like a methodology showing that we use local funds to equally distribute money to schools and ensure schools have what they need. We're allowed to use Title I to kind of be put in that same pot and used on any item, any service that would upgrade the entire educational program. So I'm going to skip this one. I've pretty much mentioned all of these pieces, but in order to be school-wide, you must have an approved CNA with the state. You must prepare and keep your CNA updated, and you must meet and review them annually. So we do all of that work in order to receive Title I funding. For Title I for this upcoming school year, we have a lot of continued projects as our district projects. We have funding is utilized for our ESEA program coordinator, our continuous school improvement coordinator. We have a reading recovery district teacher lead. And then we have 3 required district projects. Equitable Shares is serving all of our non-public schools in Lewiston, which we have 5 of those. Also ensuring that we have a project to serve our homeless program and that we have a parent project. And we have those written into our application at this time. Title I beyond district projects, and this is really where the bulk of time, it is absolutely where the bulk of Title I money is in our school-wide Title I budgets. The school-wide budgets are developed and coordinated with myself and our teaching and learning team on what programming will be up and coming for the next year. But across all of our schools that run school-wide programmings, what you will see on budgets are math interventionists, literacy interventionists positions, reading recovery teacher positions, math and literacy coach positions, many ed tech positions. We use a lot of our school-wide Title I on professional learning, some learning software and subscriptions, and instructional supplies. So anything a school is purchasing to support instruction, Title I is available for that building principal to use. So moving out of Title I into Title II. Title II is really our professional development funding source. And this can include induction, can include professional learning from technology to social emotional to reading recovery to all of the amazing things that are happening in Lewiston right now. And so Title II is available to support that work. More specifically, we're using it for the Humane Literacy and Math coursework partnership that we've had for many years. We will be continuing to use it for teachers' college units of study for PD. We have one individual in our district that supports national board certified teacher work. We have an educator effectiveness PD project, and then again, any and all other PD that we run. The equitable share projects is on this list again, because if there's any non-public school that chooses to participate, our job is to consult with them, plan with them, and help provide those services. This upcoming year, it's St. Dom's. Of our 5, just 1 non-public is participating. Title III is a funding source specifically for English language learners. So this is a per student count formula. So of the students identified in Lewiston as an ELL, we receive funds through Title I to support that work. We are responsible to locally fund all core pieces of ELL, but Title III can be used to do all supplemental and additional pieces. And so this upcoming year, what is planned for this budget is an ELL interventionist at the high school, ELL instructional supplies, a student learning software and subscription, PD specifically around SIOP and English 3D, and then again, a parent involvement project, which is a required part of Title III, excuse me. Finally, Title IV. Which I was mentioning was a very important one to Lewiston at this time. And we do have a lot of ESSER funding available for us to support SEL work in our schools and a lot of other enrichment pieces to support our students and staff. But Title IV is our steady funding source to support that type of work. This upcoming year, we plan to support a behavioral interventionist at Farwell, a behavior strategist at Montello, one of our 21st century site coordinator positions at LHS, a guidance supervision project, counselor PD project, STEM supplies, and other K-12 PD that falls under the intent and purpose of the Title IV grant. St. Dom's again. So the information I shared today and more is available on our website, and it's up there for the entire year. You can find it under ESCA as a drop down. What you're going to find there is my contact information, a lot of additional links to the work that's happening in our schools around federal programming, including our parent compacts, including a dashboard link, which is where the state of Maine houses accountability reports at this time, our CNAs, and more. And I'll also, there's the summary of funds. So what I just shared out is also in a 1-pager if you're wanting to see it in a different format of our plans. And I am happy to answer any questions. I recognize that's a lot of information and some slides here. I can go back and support any questions.
Ms. Whitlow.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. So I was just in the first section under Title I, you were talking about like our reading and writing goals for this year, and it was like 2% or something. What do you recall what our goals were for the previous year? And I know it was different type of year, so I'm curious if we were looking to increase literacy or if we were just trying to recover. I don't remember what those goals were.
So our goals for federal program, it will always be to move forward, to gain. So that would be the type of goal that the state would approve is forward momentum for a goal. But recognizing, of course, where we're at with that and our students and meeting all the academic needs and filling the gaps and doing the COVID thing. That certainly was part of a conversation at the district data team. And then we also had a lot of conversation about what was reasonable. And we have had 1 year of NWEA as a state assessment. And we've had NWEA for many years, but the way that we calculated proficiency is different than the way the state has just announced they're calculating proficiency. So what we really need to do is align at this time, and I guess I'm saying that in my opinion, we need to align to what and almost use this year as a benchmark year for that specific goal, so that we can see every year. That will be a conversation though, what is a good goal? Like what is the percentage that's going to make sense for our students? So we will continue to kind of unpack that. And I think over the course of the next year, that will continue to be. So great question, because that is a tricky one at this time.
Yeah, what you said is spot on. But the trick to that question a bit is this is that first time we've had that data, because the state changed their state assessment. Again, prior to this, it was the state's version of what they call the MEA, which was not NWEA, and then they adopted as the main assessment the NWEA, which was a supplement assessment we had been using in the past because it actually informs instruction using strands, but the state has now adopted that. So we have first year data using the state's model of this assessment. So we should have more norming from the benchmarks as we move forward.
And to add to that as well, when looking through, so the district goals are representative of pre-K through 12 in Lewiston. So this team works specifically on that data collection. Now, if you were to go into the Farwell CNA, you will see a reflection and a goal set for very Farwell specific programming. And I really encourage everyone to take a look at those. We have schools with very, very different needs in our district. And so this is a CNA really, truly is a tool. It's a tool for the work to be done by that team in the building. And that you will notice that the goals reflect that. The district goals are a bit broad, but that's because we're collapsing a lot of student data into one set. And that's our job to do it that way too. But we do have very school level plans that are more detailed and meet the needs of the schools.
Ms. Eames.
Thank you. I'm new to this. This is my first time around the annual cycle. I'm curious about how the 5, is it, non-public schools in the city relate to all of this federal funding. It's just a question. I don't understand it. You said it was St. Dom's twice today. You said St. Dom's.
Yeah.
Are the 4 others not involved this year? Those kinds of questions. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So our requirement as the public school, if we choose to participate in federal programs, which we do, is to honor our and work with our non-publics that are located in Lewiston. So we have 2 sites of Margaret Murphy in Lewiston that qualify as non-public schools serving Lewiston students. Maine Christian, St. Dom's, and Spurwink. So through a consultation process, I reach out to each individual non-public and begin the process of inviting them, discussing with them what their allocations would potentially look like if they chose to participate. So that's probably the biggest piece, is that they have the opportunity to participate or say, no, thank you. And depending on the percentage of Lewiston students in their program, I mean, it's per pupil formula. So some of our non-publics could be receiving very little. And so the task of the oversight and the management of the funds is just something they don't want to do. Yeah.
Ms. Scott.
Thank you. So I have a couple of questions, and I just want to reiterate. So this whole PowerPoint is available on this district's website so that any parent, anybody can go in and look at that. Thank you. On the goals, so have there been goals set each year that we're looking to achieve? when does the school committee receive an update on those goals and how they were achieved? And the reason I ask this is because I think would be a good public relations thing. I think that if we show our community that these goals are being reached, we're achieving these things, that this would be something that the community would be able to, it's a positive thing for our schools. And I think we should probably be discussing that. So I'd like to, if we can, have a presentation on goals that were achieved before, how they were achieved. And also if maybe when we do this annually, we could have an update on the goals that were achieved from the prior year that were set forth for the year. Also, I was wondering, so there's 2 specific positions that are paid either by a combination of 2 federal funding streams or a percentage of this position is supported using local funds. And I'm wondering if it's possible that we can have a breakdown as to how much of the local funds are used in the ESEA District Federal Programs Coordinator position and the Continuous School Improvement Coordinator position, just so that we have an understanding of that as well, because I think that's an important piece. And other than that, great presentation. Thank you.
You're welcome. I can answer some of those questions right now and then follow up potentially on some of the others. Does that work? So you mentioned the materials being available to the public. One other very important reason for sharing out tonight is to offer public comment. So also on the website, and I could pull it up on my, let me see if I can do this here. It'd be really, and then this. So on the district web page, if you went to, sorry, there's a new drop down as of today. Let me see. ESSA and ESEA information, you'll come to this page that I have brought up already. Here's the slideshow presentation. Here's the summary for the use of Title I funds for FY23. More information, our CNAs are here, but this is a public comment spot. So we are going to be offering public comment. We do this every year for about a month before we submit the application. So folks can review the use of funds and offer comment on them. So if you were to click here, you're basically going to be sent to a Google form and asked to share your thoughts on the upcoming applications. So we have received comment in years prior and brought those back to the teams to discuss. And yeah, that's just part of the process. So hopefully that is an opportunity for people to comment and to bring their thoughts. We do report out on our goals. So that's also another great question. The timeline for reporting out on goals is we report out the year prior goals on November 1 of the following year. So we're full on application right now, submitting, getting everything started. And then we move right into the next thing, which is reporting out on the year prior goals. So for planning purposes, those would be available November 1 and after to show what has happened with the goals we set. And that would be for district goals and also school-wide. Yes.
Ms. Scott.
Thank you. So I guess that brought up a couple more questions for me. So I'm wondering if when you report out, because some of us are crazy nerds and look at these things all the time, but there's a lot in the public that don't look at the website, but to look at what the calendar is, or if there's a snow day or something to that effect. So I think that maybe a report out here on November 1st on this way, it's on public, it's on YouTube, it's available for the public to see. But I'd also like maybe a push out on if there's a month for anybody in the community to make those, what you pointed out, that they can make comments and stuff like that would be really important, especially around the piece where we've got the funding for parental communication with the district and some of the stuff that's happening. I think that I would like to see a little bit more out there for the parents to be able to comment and talk about this, particularly with our ELL programming and the language learners and possibly the interpretation with some of the parents. And I'm not sure how exactly we would go about it, but I think it would be really important. And I guess it also brought up to me that I'd like to see if it's possible, if we can get some information on how many have graduated out of the ELL program and have gotten past that point where there's some of this funding. And I'm saying all this as a city councilor we just went through this budget season. I know what the political climate is out there in our community. There's a lot of questions around this stuff, and I think it's important that we put this out there so that everybody can see what's happening. Thank you.
You're welcome. Could I respond? So the district CNA and the school level CNAs have a lot of the information you were just discussing. So, and those are available here for specifically for ELL, there's a section 7 with a large amount of data collection pieces, including long-term ELLs and ELLs who have exited out of the program and what that criteria was and all of those things. So, and in it's overwhelming on a 40-page CNA document. There is no doubt about that. But it's definitely available, and I would be happy to walk anybody through some of that if they had some questions. Further questions?
Anyone else with questions for Jenny? Thank you, Jenny. That was great. And it is a significant amount of resources for us, and sounds like we're using them. I'm sure we're using them completely, but I'm sure that there are successes that we are not recognizing out of this. So, as Linda said, if we could, promote some of that would be good for all of us. So, okay.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is to receive a presentation from Johnson Controls Incorporated on some energy efficiency and facilities improvements.
Just a bit of backdrop while they're setting up their slides. This is the project that we went kind of into a joint venture with the city to do an assessment of facilities, looking for potential savings, future projects, and things of that nature. And so that's Bill's family on the screen. So they're here to share some information with us that are not necessarily full-on commitments, but things that we should probably consider that would come before the committee down the road if we were making certain commitments as part of the process. So they're going to share a presentation, I think, similar to what Linda saw at the city.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to come and present this evening. My name is Dean Angelides. I am the account executive for Johnson Controls Sustainable Infrastructure for the Northeast, including Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. Let me introduce my team today. Tim Fair is our local account executive from Johnson Controls out of the local branch office in Westbrook, Maine. To my right, you have John Sanborn is our main principal development engineer. And to my far right is Victor Holt, who is our sustainable infrastructure construction manager. Before I get started, I really would like to thank Bill Grant and Josh Bro for the tremendous working relationship that we've had with the schools as we've developed this project over the last 7 months. The communication has been fantastic, and many thanks to your staff as well, who put themselves out to spend time with us and really get us an idea of what the schools look like and how they operate, so that we could put together a really good project for the school system. The scope of work for this project that we've been developing is encompassing all of the schools and includes a lighting retrofit where we are looking at the existing lighting systems that are currently being used in the schools and upgrading them from fluorescent to LED. We would use the same exact system so that there would not need to be a reinvention of the wheel, so to speak. Also building envelope, because we know the most important thing that we can do from energy efficiency purposes is to make sure that all buildings are tight and secure from an energy perspective. We are also looking at some facility management systems, including a retrofit of the existing pneumatic control system at the Longley building, and introducing a new system called EcoPilot, which actually we'll talk about later on, which is artificial intelligence that actually helps the existing building management system run in an optimal condition. We're also looking at some boiler controllers for Farwell Elementary, pipe and valve insulation for the majority of the buildings, air compressor controllers, water conservation, controls for walk-in coolers and walk-in freezers, which do have a great significance in terms of energy savings. And we also did look at solar as well, and we will come to that further in the presentation. We've included a cash flow for the project, and the one thing I'd like to mention here, this is a sample cash flow. It's based on a projected interest rate. Should the school committee decide to move forward with the project, we obviously will engage with your finance group and put an RFP out to the local banks and to major banks to get the lowest possible interest rate for the project. But the one thing that I can show you here in this project is that the project fully cash flows on energy savings, meaning simply that all of the energy savings we were able to analyze and accrue for the project satisfy the debt obligation. So that's a huge thing in this project, and that within 20 years, the project completely cash flows. I'm going to turn this over to John Sanborn now to start explaining some of the specific measures that we are engaging.
Hi, everyone. So just to continue on what Dean had started to share the energy conservation measures with you, I'll just go into a little bit more detail on each one. And so specific to your lighting systems, you have over 10,000 lighting fixtures across the district. And while the lighting systems are in good condition, they are utilizing an older fluorescent technology. And so we will be upgrading district-wide to an LED technology, which is known as light emitting diode, which is very energy efficient and also has a longer life, exceptional reliability. And most of the schools have an intelligent lighting control system already. And the new LED system will expand on that dimming capability and control functionality. Continuing on the lighting project, there are a couple specific projects that we are attacking in this project. And one is a large exterior pole replacement project at Montello. As you can see, the existing poles there are old and wooden, and so we are going to be replacing them with new poles in concrete and new LED fixtures. And actually, those exterior lighting poles receive an estimated utility bill, and so we'll be rerouting that wire behind the electric meter, so there'll be new efficient lights metered properly. As well as at Longley, there's some existing kind of outdated wooden decorative fixtures original to the building, and we've gone and done a total redesign of that building. Building envelope, as Dean mentioned, so this is where energy is lost through air gaps or infiltration. And so this is district-wide, and we'll be addressing things like an attic air barrier retrofit or caulking, door weather stripping, and in the pictures, areas around the roof wall intersection where air is infiltrating, we go ahead and seal these areas up. Your facility management system, so this is what controls the temperature in your buildings. You have an upgraded system across the entire district with the exception of the Longley building, which is still using the original to the building 1973 pneumatic controls. And so it's while it was state of the art at the time, there is new technology to bring it up to a digital control system for improved occupant comfort along with energy savings. And so the EcoPilot, this system sits on top of your existing building management system, and it works with it. It just enhances your existing building management system. to look at different variables and to recalculate the prescribed set points rather than just looking at outdoor temperature.
I'll take this one. So in this building in Dingley, we found that the boiler is in good shape. It's a nice Badaris boiler. What you're running on is #2 fuel oil. And there's just better ways with running it on gas to be less maintenance and get gas cheaper. So what we're going to do is have Unitil come in and run new piping to the building, and they'll set a meter on the outside. We'll pipe in from there, change out the burner and keep the existing boiler. We'll put a fully modulating burner onto that system. Part of that will take care of the old oil tanks and clean them up and properly get rid of all the sludge and whatever's left over in the oil tanks.
Just to mention about Unitil, in the program that they're offering for that particular part of the project, Unitil is actually providing the running of the pipe directly to the building at their cost. They did an analysis, saw the payback on it, so they're not providing that as a cost to the schools. It makes a great deal of sense to make the transition from oil to gas, as we'll be putting a more efficient burner into that specific Badaris boiler, and to get rid of 2 oil tanks that are creating a tremendous sludge problem and a huge maintenance problem here in the Dingley building.
Dean, just
Yeah.
to say, this is the only building currently on oil, right? Everything else is on natural gas?
That's correct. Right.
Other than a handful of modulars who still use small space heaters that are tied to oil tanks.
So everyone heard that there are a couple of modulars that we have, 4 or 5 total, that are burning probably kerosene for heat, but they're smaller sites. So yeah, they would just put the entire district on, for all intents and purposes, on natural gas.
It would put the majority, it would put all your main buildings on natural gas. And I think it's a little bit of a coup that we've got Unitil granting us the ability to go ahead and run that line from the street to the building at no additional cost to the schools.
Next up is Geiger Elementary. You have another nice boiler, a newer boiler at Geiger Elementary. It's got some dated electrical components on the burner. It runs on a mod motor that runs the air and the gas settings on the same motor. Essentially what you do with that is you set a high fire, you set a low fire, anything in between is what you get for a combustion. We're going to put a computerized burner controller on there and use mod motors on the air and mod motors on the gas, and set a near perfect combustion throughout the firing range of that boiler, of both boilers. In addition to the burner controller, you get a diagnostics on the burner. So if there's any lockouts or anything, gives the technicians or the custodians an idea what's going on with the burner.
So the idea there is to run those boilers at an optimal condition based on the program set in these modules, and to reduce the amount of maintenance that's been required on those boilers to date.
And at Farwell, we're doing an icon module. What it does is it's a newer boiler that's higher efficiency. What this does is it just trims out the settings, whether it's reaching temperature quicker than expected. It will shut the burner off preemptively to keep from overheating and wasting fuel. So.
Last couple of measures are pipe and valve insulation. And so this is district-wide. Any uninsulated pipes or valves, we will be wrapping those so heat is directed to where it's intended. And then a handful of schools that do have air conditioning. Similar to the boilers, we will put smart controllers on the AC systems. Water conservation. So this consists of installing low flow aerators on any high flow sinks, and in some places shower heads. And walk-in cooler freezer control. So you have a large number, 11 walk-in coolers across the district and 12 walk-in freezers, including sort of a district storage at the Montello School. And so opportunity exists to save energy by installing intelligent controls on these systems and replacing some of the evaporator fan motors with electrically commutated motors, which save energy. Okay.
Yep. So these are booster heaters in the kitchens. What the dishwashers need to go above and beyond the 120 degrees that you supply for your hot water, the kitchens require 180 degrees to sanitize the dishes. Currently in the Green Ladle, Lewiston Middle, the elementary, Montello Elementary, Geiger Elementary in McMahon, they're running on electric booster heaters. We're proposing to change those out for gas fired, which is more cost effective. Gas is cheaper to run than boosting those with electricity. The added benefit as well is many of those water heaters are reaching the end of their asset life cycle. So it's good to change those out either way.
So just to touch on overall energy savings of the project here across your current energy spend, the district in this period was that we analyzed was calendar year 2021. The district spends just over $1.2 million annually across electricity, natural gas, fuel, oil, and water sewer. And so by installing this project, you'll save just over $200,000 or 17% of your current utility cost.
And we did take we took a very, our approach to that was to really be as careful as possible of measuring those energy savings because we would very much like to underpromise and overdeliver on that. I think we feel very strongly that we can do better than what's even showing up on the board. And that actually takes us into the solar conversation. In our selection from the city has allowed us to start looking at developing solar on their landfill property with the caveat that we would develop solar for both the city and the school system. The city has agreed that they would provide that land area so that we could help offset kilowatt cost for the schools. And it's a critical, I think it's a critical piece to this project in that we know that the price of electricity is about to skyrocket in Maine and across the Northeast. As those prices go up, you want to have renewables like solar PV to offset that KW demand in the schools. Unfortunately, we are waiting on Central Maine Power because they require to upgrade the substation that this particular area feeds into. If we had been able to include this in the project, we would have been able to offset 50% of the school's KW usage. So this is something that we're still continuing to push forward for. I know that there's a lot of support for this on the city side, with Central Maine Power being their largest tax customer in the city. We're hoping that they're applying, and I know that they are applying some motivation to the utility to try to move forward. But with the timeline of this project, we did not feel comfortable in having an answer back from Central Maine Power potentially within the next 2 to 5 years. So this is something that could actually come into play down the road for the school system and have a tremendous impact on your energy usage.
And lastly, just talk about incentives, available incentives and awards and recognition as part of the energy efficiency project. So this project will be eligible for energy efficiency incentives through Efficiency Maine. And we've placed a preliminary estimate in that cash flow that you saw of over $200,000 that we're anticipating of receiving. And Johnson Controls will work on the district's behalf to go and get those monies and award them back to the school district. And then lastly, just on some recognition, and I actually noticed that this building downstairs, I saw an Energy Star plaque maybe from 10 years ago or so, but as part of the process, we like to benchmark your buildings and then see after the project, see how the energy savings are impacted for each building. And you can benchmark your buildings in Energy Star and kind of benchmark them against your peers across the country. It's just a way to show that how Lewiston is standing out and is more energy efficient than your peers.
Yeah, I mean, this particular tool for Energy Star benchmarking is great for public outreach to let your constituents know that you're taking an active role in reducing your energy costs, making these buildings safer, more comfortable, and energy efficient for students, staff, and administration. One of the things I'd also like to add that if the schools do decide to move forward with this project, that we would like to offer and donate an air handler and controls to the school system so that schools could build an HVAC lab. One of the things that absolutely thrilled me when we started developing the project for the schools is your technical center, is the amount of opportunity that you have for children to come in here and young adults to take opportunity and make themselves that much better. And I will tell you, selfishly, that I'm a culinary school graduate. I graduated from Johnson & Wales University, and the Green Ladle building has a soft spot in my heart for that building. And watching those, and we were able to go in there, watching those students work brought me right back to my culinary school days. And I could tell you that Johnson Controls, while we want to make sure that we provide energy efficiency and sustainability and comfort for your students and your teachers and your admin, we're very involved in STEM. We're very much involved in trying to do things like this to provide opportunity for young adults to take advantage of that next opportunity. I would love to see the next round of technicians, be they controls technicians or HVAC technicians, come out of the Lewiston school system and end up working for Johnson Controls. We're always looking for good people. We're thrilled about the opportunity to have this project come to fruition for you folks. And if there's any questions we can answer, we're here.
Thank you so much. I really don't know much about infrastructure. I just want you to be very clear about that. But I do listen to the news, and in the news, there's quite a bit about various cities banning natural gas. And so I'm curious about the decision here to go towards it while many cities are making it illegal. So I'm just curious.
I think what you're hearing is that there are cities that have in their city plans to try to go carbon neutral by 2050 or 2030. Some of them have even more aggressive plans. I think, in my professional opinion, that requires electrification of heat, which I see with the coming increase in costs as being somewhat prohibitive in the short term. But the most important thing any school system can do is to try to make sure they're using the most efficient means of generating heat and through that energy. Natural gas right now is still a viable option. I know that we're doing that with the city as well. So I don't think that it's something that the city has looked to ban locally here. But certainly as time goes by, and one of the things that I had said during our presentation to the city back in December when we were selected, and it's important because the one thing that I can tell you about Johnson Controls is that we don't just come in, do the project, and then walk away and say, okay, here's all your new stuff. Have at it and have a great time. we stay. We stay with you. We provide measurement and verification of the savings. We guarantee those savings contractually. So that I know this probably sounds really pie in the sky, but our goal is to make sure that if we don't honor that commitment, we're cutting a check back to the school system for the difference. So our goal is to be a partner long-term with the city of Lewiston and Lewiston Public Schools. And as I said earlier about the solar, we want to be here so that when we get to the point where we can build that solar array on that landfill, that we have the ability to give tremendous benefit to the school system.
I can hold. Hang on one second. I can add to that. What those states and cities are doing are banning natural gas from being installed in new construction. So it's not that they're trying to get people to take out their gas-fired appliances in their existing houses and buildings. It's what is coming in new buildings.
Ms. Hurd.
Hello, I actually have a couple questions, if that's okay. My first one is, did we look at car charging stations? I know for myself, my next vehicle, I'm hoping to be a hybrid. And I know there's a lot of different programming and stuff out there where you can get those for little to nothing. Sometimes they'll just give them, different programs will give them to you. Did we look at any of those for potential locations in any of our schools or
Yes.
thing in the building or?
Yeah, we did look at that as part of the solar PV project. It's something that we want to definitely engage in. I know on the city side, we're also looking potentially down the road at an opportunity to do that in their parking garages, especially on the upper decks where we could put carports, solar carports on top of the parking structures. So yes, that's actually a consideration as we move forward. It could end up being a part of a phase 2 of a project. I know as I'll speak to the city again, and that they are looking to engage us in multiple phases to address all of these things over time. But yes, we would take advantage of any federal or national subsidy for those.
Okay. And my other question along solar panels, what is the typical lifetime of a solar panel? And then at the end of that lifetime, how does that panel get disassembled, recycled, taken care of? Like, how does that work? I mean, I don't know the whole process.
And solar panels, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, come with about a 25-year warranty.
Yeah, 2025, and then you would either upgrade the existing array to newer technology.
Yeah, and the interesting thing there about those panels is that the technology around solar panels are just constantly increasing. There are actually 2 gentlemen out on the West Coast that have built a solar panel and put a treatment on it that actually allows it to convert almost 40% of the sun's light into kW, into electricity. So that we feel like it's a great thing to have that infrastructure in place, so that when the technology does catch up and you get to the end of the useful life of those panels, that it's a much smaller capital outlay to replace them and hopefully put in panels that have a higher efficacy rating, to the point where, once you get to have panels that can convert 40 to 50% of the sun's light into electricity, then they start to have the same return on investment as LED lighting. And I think that's a huge item for the city and the school system as we look at potential increases in the tariff. The city has told us directly that they're expecting, that CMP has told them that there's potentially a 70% increase in the tariff coming by the fall. So these things become critical to get that infrastructure in place at a lower cost today than deferring that item, say 10 to 15 years down the road, where you have that increase in cost of living year over year, cost of supply chain, et cetera, et cetera. So we feel like that's a critical project that can be done to enhance the school's current energy efficiencies.
Okay, I have just a couple more.
Sure.
Sorry, my husband works for an electrical engineering company, so I may have more questions. I didn't see in the slide, and it could have just been because it was kind of small that I didn't see it, but do you have an estimated of how many kilowatt hours are going to be saved after you install all these, let's just say light bulbs or taking care of the like boosters for the dishwashers?
We did not include that in the presentation specifically, but certainly we can give you that information. We do have.
Okay. And then also, two more questions. Multiple incentive programs. Did we look at multiple different avenues, not just this one, like, what is it, energy
Efficiency
main?
main?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, were multiple programs looked into, and this was the one that gave us the most option or the most money, really, actually.
It was the greatest
Okay.
reward, but we are constantly looking at grants and other items. We do have a grant writing team at our home office that we can engage to go after any types of funding. And it's something that we do constantly. I actually just recently was invited for an energy conference. It was the governor's conference. It was about a month ago. Unfortunately, I was sick that day and could not make it up here, but we want to pursue every potential funding source to help buy down the debt obligation, to help buy down that project, because we want to, again, we want to make sure, to use the expression, leave no stone unturned. And we want to make sure that we run a fully funded project and get as much for the schools as possible.
Okay. And last question. ROI, I understood that is 20 years.
20-year, that's a 20-year cash flow. Yes. That's
And
correct.
then if that doesn't include the solar panel project, or that does include the solar panel
It does
project?
not include the solar panel project right now. If we had included the solar panel project in that, then the return would have been much, much higher. We would probably offset your complete thermal and KW needs by closer to 40% as opposed to almost 20%. I have a feeling that we'll be very close to 20%. The big game changer in this project is the eco-pilot. The eco-pilot is artificial intelligence that sits on top of the existing building management system, the Siemens system, takes readings of the environment, internal and external, all factors, but it constantly reviews the system every 2 minutes and then makes appropriate changes to the system. It's not, it's not the runaway robot that's constantly doing something, and it gives Josh and Bill the ability to have better control over the existing building management system, because the building management system does what it does, but nothing sits there and fine tunes it, say every 2 minutes or every 10 minutes. We're looking at 3 buildings to start that out, prove that efficiency. And if we do prove the efficiency, then certainly we'd like to come back and do it in the rest of the buildings as well. To me, that's the future of building management systems. It's not just having a system that's smart enough to turn your boilers on and off based on outdoor air temperature or any other measure. It's actually taking that next step and saying, okay, I've taken a look at what this boiler's doing and this boiler's doing, and I've taken a look at the outside air temperature. I know what the humidity is. Now I'm going to make some fine tuning adjustments. And that really has an ability to save a tremendous amount of energy by simply doing that. And it also provides a tremendous opportunity to reduce operations and maintenance expenses as well.
Okay. And sorry, last question. The 20 years for the ROI, is that a typical, have you done a lot of schools? I know we have quite a few buildings, but is that typical?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
It's typical. I can tell you that we've done a project up in Rutland, Vermont, Rutland City Public Schools. You're more than welcome to contact Ted Plemenos, who's the business manager at Rutland City Public Schools. We've done 3 phases of work there, and we've reduced their total energy spend by half to date. And we're now engaging actually as of this week into a phase 4 project with them to help them gain greater efficiencies and air quality improvements based on ESSER funding.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Paul.
Thank you. Excellent presentation. Just a few questions about your company. How long has it been in existence? How many projects have you done? Something that gives us an idea that you'll be around for a while.
Sure, absolutely. Johnson Controls is actually Warren Johnson, who founded Johnson Controls in the early 1900s, was the inventor of the electric thermostat. And the company has been around for well over 60 years at this point. We have I think in the Eastern Seaboard, we have close to $1 billion in projects, energy funded projects like this. And I can tell you statistically that the company has met their obligation over 98% of the time. Less than 2% of the time, we're cutting a check back for a difference in energy funding for not having honored a commitment. We are a global company. We're I believe it's a $6 billion company at this point, publicly traded on the stock exchange. Johnson Controls, JCI, is our marker on the exchange. We've been around for a great deal of time. We are one of the original 3 to start doing energy performance contract. In fact, we lead energy performance contracting in the K through 12 space nationally. So we've been doing this for quite a while. There's a tremendous amount of expertise internally here in this team. I can share with you that Vic Holt, our construction manager, has 30 years with Johnson Controls. I'm just about 10 years myself. John, I think you're close to 12 years, and Tim? 18. So, I mean, if we add it all up together, we're one really old man right here. But we've been around and we've done a number of projects. And certainly if you need any references, we're happy to provide them.
Scott.
Thank you. So I just want to say thank you for the presentation. And one of the things I was going to ask was your long-term being here with us. And I know that this was brought up at the city council level. And so I appreciate you saying that and talking about being here, that the work just doesn't get done and you go away.
No, ma'am.
Right.
It's a commitment.
And I was also wondering if on the utility cost, when we look at a $200,000 in saving, do we anticipate that that's not just a one-time cost when we get all this equipment put in? There's going to be additional costs throughout the years because we've put this equipment in.
There'll be savings across the board year after year. And what we do is every year measure and verify those savings and come back and provide a comprehensive report to the school board however you deem it to be done, whether it's public or private in that meeting.
Mm-hmm.
We want to share that information back with you and show you the performance of the building. State of Maine performance contracting statutes require that we measure and verify for the entire 20 years of the project. So, again, it's the most important thing, and I can't stress this enough, is that we don't go anywhere. We want to stay here. We want to make sure that everything works the way it's supposed to. If we find additional efficiencies as we go, we want to point those out. We want to be a partner to the school district. These types of projects are extraordinarily collaborative and requires, as you can see, it took 7 months from start to finish to build this project to where we are today. And I just cannot say enough great things about Bill and Josh and what a great team it's been to work together. And we're thrilled to have this opportunity. I think we've been through the city and through now the schools. I think there's a tremendous synergy between Johnson Controls and both entities. And we want to continue that as things go. And we want to be part of helping you build your future.
Great, thank you. And if I just might a couple more, please. So I'm wondering if we could have a copy of the PowerPoint, because some of us are old and we can't quite read all the little writing. So I would appreciate to have,
right there.
So we can have, all of those numbers and stuff put in place so that we can take a look at that. And then I guess my question would be, when are we looking to have a discussion about this? And also in respect to the possible solar panels, when might you be knowing more about that and where we could have a possible discussion on that moving forward?
We're hoping to have some more information on the solar panels within the next 30 to 60 days. We're hoping to hear something back from Central Maine Power. I'll repeat when you were there when I said about the city, you guys are the customer. You're the customer for Central Maine Power. Johnson Controls calls Central Maine Power and that phone call is never returned. But when Mayor Shalene calls or when the superintendent calls, I can guarantee you that phone call is returned. And I encourage you folks to really encourage Central Maine Power to move forward. Once they get the upgrade to that substation, we could potentially be either first and second in line for a project. So that's, I can't stress enough that that would be a tremendous savings to the school system.
My 2 cents, first would be to have the facilities subcommittee have a discussion about this. I'm also real curious about the array and when that might be considered. It's just a big factor in the overall cost, but.
Yeah, so the city didn't approve this yet, or did they?
Actually, the contract has been delivered to the city. The city has reviewed it legally. It's gone back to our attorney now.
Okay.
Once we get it back, then the city will be moving forward.
Okay, so did this go through like an RFP process?
Yes, it did.
Oh, okay. So, and part of the contract with the city, does that encompass this, or is this completely separate?
This is
Okay.
what we were tasked to do was to build a completely separate
Yeah.
project from the city.
Yeah.
So that you would have your own project. We're actually assembling your contract now. And as soon as we have it available, we're gonna send it over to you so that you can review the technical details, have your attorney review terms and conditions. We'd like to dot the i's and cross the t's and make sure that everyone's in agreement. And then once your committees decide to move forward, then we can execute as you like.
Well, I don't know if everybody's familiar with RFP processes, but it sounds like the city has kind of taken that hard part away so that we don't have to deal with vetting companies. So that's really good to hear.
We went through a full procurement process with the city, and it came down to final presentations from Train, Siemens, and Johnson Controls, and the board and the city select council that was doing the deciding chose Johnson Controls.
I can weigh in on that a little bit. I was asked by City Administrator Hunter to actually be on that selection committee. I was able to review the RFP that got us to the, I think there are actually there are 4 people who made the application. 3 were actually did presentation, and it was a very competitive process. It was complete, and I think at the time that we did award it for the city, as I said to Jake and to Josh and Bill, I said, we really should be getting on board with this, because you're right, that RFP process, it takes time, it costs money, and basically, I think it's going to accelerate our ability to take advantage of this by probably a year to 18 months. Would you agree, Dean? I mean, it was
I
just
would fully agree. And I also stress that with things going on in the financial markets, basis points going up and things of that nature, the time is now. The time is now. I mean, with these types of projects, you can always come back and refinance the project down the road for a better rate, but you got to take advantage of what the market can give you today. And we know that we can probably exceed what we put in as a place marker on the cash flow table.
Anyone else? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much for
Good
your
to
time.
see you again, and thanks for all the effort up to this point. Looking forward to the contract. We are going to, at this time, we're going to skip over item number 10, which was to take the field trip to 75 Park Street. Item number 11 is to receive an update on Longley School. Mr. Superintendent.
I'm actually going to turn the mic over to Bill and maybe Josh. Some significant progress has been made, and they've been the closest to it. And so I want to give them a chance to give us an update.
So the school is actually coming along really well. The adult ed side last week, they were able to pretty much finish everything up, right? And so adult ed is pretty much back to normal. We actually used the summer youth program, did some painting in there, which was a really nice thing that we were able to have that happen and get some things taken care of. On the next step side, they are using one classroom that wasn't damaged to do some summer programming. But I was actually talking to somebody today who had gone through there, and we were just kind of reminiscing about how hard everybody worked to get that place cleaned up. And really, I think if we were to go in there today, other than some walls that have been primed over, there's one wall in there that just, it's the rock wall in there that really got paint thrown on it and stuff, and that's not cleaned up. But other than that, the staff's done a tremendous job. That, and there is a dumpster out front that the materials were thrown in there. IT's begun to reorder equipment to get that up and running. Like anything with the supply chain, that is something that's kind of holding us back, because we did lose some photocopiers there, and they didn't have any in stock for us to be able to get those replaced. But we have a custodian that we moved from McMahon over to Longley for the summer. And he's had experience working in that school before, because he was there when it was the elementary school. So we had him come over, and because he knows the nuance of the buildings, continue the cleanup effort and things. So it's been going great. Josh, I don't know if you want to add anything. I know Josh doesn't, he always loves getting on the mic.
You know me, I'm always one to tell a story. This is not story time. This is big smile time. This is my chance to pat my guys and girls on the back that stepped up and came down to the school. We put a message out. A lot volunteered. A couple got strongly asked, but they showed up in force, and they took that building that was turned upside down on its head and turned it around very quickly so we could get staff back into that building and make it feel like that never happened. They managed to pull that off in a very quick amount of time. We had a tremendous amount of outreach from the community about coming in to help. We kind of gave them the Heisman stiff arm for a little bit and said, just give us a chance to get in there and take care of what we need to take care of. We probably won't have much need for that assistance yet. We're looking for ways to put those requests and those offers to work for us. But this really came down to our custodial staff taking pride and ownership of their buildings, the people that work in them and the students that attend them, and they busted that out. So here's my chance to say thank you to them formally and officially.
Thank you, Josh. Ms. Whitlaw.
Thank you. I just was curious, did we get a final dollar amount from the insurance adjusters on what that?
We're still working on
Yeah.
that. We're at the point where we have all the IT items identified, inventoried as to what needs to be replaced. They're starting to order those things. We have a bunch of facilities type items, desks, whiteboards, cork boards, things of that nature that we're still getting pricing on. We've got some repairs coming, some other things to go on. So that number will continue to ratchet up, but at this point, I don't have a number that I would feel safe to say this is the approximate damage as of yet. So it's coming, but it's evolving as we proceed. This basically what we wanted to do was just get the building acceptable to have people in. We didn't live in that building. We weren't in that building. We don't work out of that building. So there are things that are probably disappeared, damaged, destroyed that we weren't aware of. It just got swept into a pile in a trash bag and out the door it went. We needed some time for staff to come in and really sit back in their seat and start assessing what's here, what's not here, what is gone that we wouldn't know that they would. So we're waiting on that information to come back as well for those items, and up to and including personal items. Staff had, small items on their desk that their children had made that were destroyed. So, there's those things we'll never be able to put a price to, and we'll never be able to get back. But the items that we're working on that right now.
Ms. Scott.
Thank you. I just want to have you, Josh, tell your staff that we really appreciate all the work and the hard work, and we really want to thank them.
Just while we got you here, Bill and Josh, thank you both very much. Also, Karen, who was also a big part of that effort, just to see what we could do. And once we got past the shock of the hurt of it all, to turn things around so quickly, really appreciate it.
Mr. Bopon.
Where are we on the responsibility of the perpetrators?
So I've been in contact with LPD about the pending charges, and we will be hosting those students at some point in the very near future.
Anyone else? Thank you, guys, and you make sure you do thank the staff for, for all of their diligence in getting that taken care of. That was a fantastic response. The next item on the agenda is report from the school committee chair. I really don't have much other than that it's summer. We've had lots of meetings from negotiations and some other things going on. This facilities presentation is really something I'm looking forward to helping wrap up as well. So there's a lot going on. But other than that, I think we're just moving forward. School's out of session, so it's a little simpler. We've got some great new staff coming on board, which I'm excited about, and we'll see how we'll hope for the best come September 1. The next item would be the superintendent's report.
I think that the biggest things for me are the nominations tonight. A lot of work and time and effort went into really trying to find high quality candidates to fill what we think are critical roles. So I would thank the entire school committee for all your help and efforts with the interview process and input throughout. I also want to note, I've mentioned this prior, but we've got something new set up now, thanks to our IT department helping out. We are shifting our Facebook page as a district because of some privacy and security issues. And so be looking for a new rollout of communication on that. Part of why you're not hearing about certain things is because we were locked out of something, not to our doing, and creating something new that we as a district have, I would say, proprietary rights to and permissions on. So some of these things that you haven't heard about or seen on Facebook will be coming out again. So I'll share messaging pretty broad and wide about what that page is, and that will be coming out this week likely. Also, we received notice that we've been awarded as a recipient of a $50,000 grant for use that we deem necessary. And so kind of a very few, if any, strings attached component. And so we are currently brainstorming some ideas, and we'll bring that back to you with what we'd like to use those dollars for. But it was nice to receive something that said, for the great work you're doing, we'd like to just donate, and you can use it the way you see fit. And so we look forward to that. I'll share more detail when we come back with it. I want to ensure that I have the right. Some grants like to be known, and some choose not to. So, but it still looks very exciting to receive that. But we'll share all the detail that we can publicly, and if appropriate, certainly thank the donating origin. So those are the big ones for me right now.
Ms. Whitlaw.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, Jake, because I've heard from some people in my ward about the time change for McMahon School. And I just want everybody to understand why it was changed, and so there's not that uproar.
No, a good question. And I fielded some questions also from various people, and the big reason on the time change, and before I just jump to busing or a busing issue, because certainly busing is a component, but the larger issue is over the years, we have been selling short one or two of our elementary school students between 15 and 45 minutes per day of instruction. And so when we look up at equity and we think of a place like Connors having 2 weeks less instruction because of their busing routes and timing patterns, and everybody else having that 2 weeks when you start adding it all up as part of their day. So we worked hard to figure out the best routes that we could and how to make sure that each student is getting an equitable amount of time for instruction in the classroom to the very best of our ability. That's what stimulated some of these shifts. I'll also note that right now, because of like staff meeting and professional learning days that happen on Wednesdays for us, that would push some of these schools going later, really late. And so I don't have it all plotted out yet. Karen, Stu, and I are working with some others to see if we can do some PLC things in the mornings, maybe split the time, maybe do just the morning so that people aren't there quite so late on those professional days. No promises yet, but we're going to do what we can, understanding that things like daycares and children's activities and things like that spill into those timeframes. So we want to see what we can do. Yep.
Yes,
Kind of just to piggyback off that a little bit, as I was one of the people that reached out for clarification. Is it possible to post it kind of like you do, send out like an email and a tweet and a text? Because the only reason I saw it was on the McMahon Facebook page that Charlotte had shared some information. And so I know there are a lot of people out there that don't have Facebook. So unless they get some official sort of something, they're not going to have any idea that school is now starting 20 minutes later.
Yeah, we could definitely push something out.
And to add to that, does that also affect public pre-K? So public pre-K was initially, like, to give an example, McMahon started from arrival was 8:25 to 8:40, and then pre-K started at 8:40. But now that we're starting at 8:40, does that push them back another 20 minutes? Like,
So I did look into that just to make sure we're sharing appropriate times. The pre-K transportation functions a little separately of the other transportation. So the windows of time frame adjustments, if any, will vary by school, and we'll make sure that we communicate that also.
Yes, Mr. Paul.
And will parents receive a letter in the mail for that time adjustment? Because I mean, they do almost have 2 months to prepare for this. So, there's time.
Yeah, and schools will be sending out start of year letters anyway, but we can still message these things now and repeatedly, I think, because it is a change that people are going to have to adapt to for sure.
Yes, Ms. Marks.
I have a question for the superintendent. I didn't know if I should bring it up under future agenda items or if there's more urgency for it. It has come to my attention through a variety of different sources that the initial plan to relocate the storage for the store next door to Longley, but keep an office at the high school, since that's where most of the students they serve are, has changed, and that the store next door no longer has any space at the high school at all. In the last school year, they had 104 students that were LHS students that were accessing their services. And that's a lot of students to have to hike back and forth between Longley and the high school to access services. And so I didn't know if something was being worked on to try to find some space for the store next door to stay at the high school where they're most appropriate.
So that crossed my desk this morning. And I think that the information that's been shared is not actually the plan. So the store next door will have a space at the high school. Not only a space, but storage spots have been identified. And I think I just want to go get eyes on to make sure that that's going to work for them. But we do have a commitment to them, not only remaining in the high school, we've talked about how we over time expand it to other locations. So I do think it was more of a breakdown of communication with a principal leaving than anything else. And so ironically, and this isn't to put anybody else on the spot, and I got to verify some things, but when I mentioned it to Bill this morning right away, he said, no, they have space, and presented me with more information from facilities about a highlighted map of potential areas. So I think what happened from a communication perspective, and I got to verify this, and I don't know if some of those staff are watching or not, but I haven't circled back with them just yet because I want to verify. But the initial concern with you have to get these things out of this space is for the new programming that we're putting in there for students that we send to other districts or other locations for that specialized population. So that space is being converted to that kind of programming. So we needed people out of that space at the time. And I think in the rush of the end of the year and people taking vacations and whatnot, it turned into, well, we can't have anything here, which again, if that was the communication, we'll be correct in that it will have space at the high school. And I know that Principal Radke is also in favor of student supports. Not that we've talked about this particular issue, but I'm sure he can find a space and we'll work together on that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, I too don't have much to report this evening. We're actually having our first city council meeting in July tomorrow, and it's actually a workshop that's a joint meeting between the planning board and the city council, because we're starting to do some extensive work on zoning, which I think is a great thing for our community. I mean, we're looking at infill and, more community stores, all sorts of different things that are going to make, I think, some significant changes. So I think that's a really good thing for economic development. And then the other thing I had was that The LA Maples had their opening game yesterday at the Armory, and they kicked some serious butt. And it was amazing. I mean, it was like a 40-point difference in the game total at the end. So, and there was a really good turnout. So I would encourage everybody that likes basketball and wants to go see some women basketball. These ladies are pretty amazing, and it's at the Armory, and I look forward to seeing people there. And at this point, that's about all I have for City Council.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. Yes, Mr. Bopal.
Thank you. My apologies if I missed it in the paper, but the energy presentation that we had, I'd like your opinion as a city councilor. Was there anything we should know? Is there anything new that was not mentioned for you? Is there anything equitable that would concern us?
So to answer that, the only thing that I found different was that we got our PowerPoint presentation. We were able to have that in front of us. That was the only thing that I thought was any different. Their presentation was the same as the city council, and they actually answered a lot of the questions that city council has had in their presentation here with us tonight. And the things that I asked them was just to ensure that that was reiterated, that they're not going to be gone right away, that they have this commitment of staying here if we choose them to move forward, which I found to be a tremendous piece. And I think the whole city council felt that way. There was the real importance to have them be part of this process moving forward, to give us those annual audits on a regular basis for a while. And I think that there was a lot of positive energy about it from what I gathered from the other city councilors. So I'm looking forward for us moving forward on this, and particularly those conversations that we can have around the solar panels. And I will tell you, as somebody that was, and this is sort of in reference to what you had asked for questions, being on the planning board and going through many of the processes with putting the new solar panels up and the different ones that have been put up throughout the community, there is a process through that where which we look at recycling and when the time is up on that. And I think that's something with the facilities committee and Josh, we could definitely have that conversation moving forward to ensure that, you know, after that 20-year, 25-year process is over, how we're going to disassemble that and make sure that that gets handled correctly. I myself is huge on the environment being protected on that. So I think that that's a easy part of that process too. So I thought it went well.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, just as a point, Johnson Controls and is one of the 4 major manufacturers of heating, refrigeration, air conditioning equipment in this country. They're huge. They're also very much involved in the automotive industry as well. They're not going anywhere. They're you know, when you look at the major players, Johnson Controls has always been a part of, and particularly with these energy services projects, they were in it long before some of the folks like Siemens and Trane were in it. So they've got depth of experience. I've been working with them professionally on school district projects like this, maintenance projects and stuff, since the mid 70s, and they're still here and they're still doing it. So I would not be concerned about them going anywhere at this point. That's one of the reasons why they scored the city contract, was because of that reputation. Yes, Paul.
Thank you. I didn't want to put you in the spot, but I figure if this energy business is in anyone's wheelhouse, it would be yours. And certainly having the respect for your opinion, I think you've shared that, and I'm comfortable, along with Ms. Scott. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel very comfortable with them. We have no student reps tonight, so item number 15 we can skip. Updates from school committee subcommittees. I don't know whether we want to touch that. Ms. Whitlow, would you like to touch that or just ignore it?
No, I don't want to touch it. Yeah, so negotiations is going well for the food service workers and the food service managers. I think we had 3 meetings each for each of those units, and we negotiated a pretty good contract. We just got to wait for them to ratify on their end and then bring it to us. So those are really successful negotiation sessions. We're still working we're in mediation with the teacher's contract. Seems like things are moving forward. So that's a positive. And so I didn't think I could say that a couple of weeks ago. So that feels really good. And the ed techs, we got a couple of negotiations this week. So we've got meetings every night this week. I refuse to do Fridays. So yeah. So yeah, things are going better than I thought they would this month. So.
Mr. Bohon.
Sorry, going back to previous issue, I apologize for neglecting Josh for his input on this, being part of the team. I'm sorry. I don't know if we can sneak it in, but do you have any observations from your dealings with him?
In regards to Johnson Controls? No, but I would just echo what Bruce said. They're a ginormous company, to use a scientific term. And they've been purchasing all kinds of companies. Like they now own York, who makes all kinds of rooftop and heating and air conditioning equipment. And their portfolio, to kind of tip my hand, I work for FW Webb, who sold York, and that was a big Johnson Controls product line. When we started sitting down with the JCI reps and they started showing us all the different companies that they've invested in or purchased, they're spreading so wide right now that they're getting to be the expert in just about everything. So regardless of what your problem is, they're going to have a solution for it. So it's very comforting with that. The other thing that I want to let you folks know, especially those tied to facilities, fairly hard. Anybody who knows our service agreement with Siemens knows that we have a Siemens control system district-wide. And when you do something like that, you're kind of tied to that company. Siemens bid on this work as well. So we weren't really sure if the dogs and the cats were going to play together when we brought them together, and they did. So we were sure to include in any high level high level or low level meetings that involve something that would touch something Siemens that JCI was presenting. We were sure to bring Siemens to the table to discuss that, so they could voice their concerns and questions, and we could vet out any issues that may come up. There weren't any. I think Siemens, rightfully so, wants to protect their interests. They weren't sure what they were getting into when we brought them to the table with Johnson Controls, but as we left those tables after those meetings, they had a comfortable feeling about what we were doing and why we were doing it as well. So I just want to reassure you, we brought everybody that we could together to bring these ideas to fruition, and what they gave us are some great ideas and some really great ways to reduce our carbon footprint, reduce our energy impact, get away from fuel oil, things of those nature. So, it's win-win. So happy to see the way it came.
Thank you, and my apologies for overlooking you.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
The curriculum, since we last met, the social studies part of the curriculum planning has concluded for the year. And again, once again, successful, I think very successful set of meetings and plans. So thank you, Sue.
I'd like to thank the hard work of the committee, and especially Ms. Ames, who took over when I had some personal issues or was out of town, or just couldn't make it on short notice. So thank you, Elizabeth.
Okay. School community announcements. I know we're out of school at the moment, so anyone have anything? Future agenda items. Ms. Ames.
I have my perpetual request for some kind of discussion about graduation tracking.
We'll give you plenty of time. We'll give you plenty of time.
Please know that it is an issue.
Nothing else? I think at this time we will go into recess. We're going to take a field trip across the street. It's still light outside. 75 Park Street is where we're headed. We will be coming back here. Yeah, you should be able to leave everything right here. we'll be coming back here to go into executive session. But with this, I'm assuming this is half an hour, maybe?
Yeah, I'd like to be quick. I mostly just want to see, I want you to see it and just get an impression